It is the second Sunday night of June already. Yeah, it's the second already. Yeah, sure enough. Wow. All right. That means we are doing Sunday night story time again, and I'm going to need a couple of people to hand these out. All right. Noah and you got Luke beside you. Come on up, guys. Luke, Noah volunteered you, bud. May not know it, but you got volunteered. All right, hand these out. Wait, save me one. I got one. All right. So we'll make use of people here tonight. We'll get some candy ready. All right. Now, tonight, we get to start a whole new person tonight. We get to look at a new person, and we're going to follow this person's life. And for the first time in Sunday night story time history, this time we're going to follow a lady instead of following a guy. So, we're going to follow Queen Esther. Now, as they're getting, let's see, Luke, Noah, you get candy for passing them out, so there's those. There you go. All right. Well, we got there close. All right. So we are going to start talking about Esther. Now, in order to do this, I do feel like we need a little bit of background. All right. Now, as you look, interestingly, hopefully, all of you remember something about Esther, because unless I'm way off base, you all just had Esther in Sunday school recently, right? Everybody's saying yes. Everybody's nodding yes. Okay, yeah. Sorry, Luke, Diverna kids. Yeah, I know you missed it. Sorry. Oh, I got some other people in the back nodding no. Well, that's their problem. Anyhow, all right, so we've just recently covered Esther, so you should have some knowledge of what's going on, but we're going to do a little background. We're going to do a little thinking about what's going on and understand. There is one general concept running through the book of Esther, and that is God is in control. God has a plan, and God is putting everything in place. Now, fascinatingly, many of you may or may not know, Esther is the one book in the Bible where the name of God is never actually written down. It's never there. The name of God is not in there, but what we see is the hand of God working throughout the whole book to take care of his people. So, we're going to have fun. Now, historically, think about where the events of the book of Esther happened. All right? You have God picks a nation, Israel. They do their 40 years of wandering. They invade the promised land. They're doing okay. Then they're not doing okay, and they mess everything up. And the prophets say, guys, you're going to get in a mess if you don't straighten up. The kingdom divides. Everything's in a wreck. And God says, all right, fine. 722 years before Jesus comes along, the northern 10 tribes of Israel are wiped out by the Assyrians, and the few that are saved get scattered across the Assyrian Empire. Okay, on the world geopolitical stage, then the Syrians defeated the Assyrians, and then the Syrians, under the control of Nebuchadnezzar in 516, come in, and they finally finish off the southern tribes of Israel and take them into captivity in a couple of stages. But the short version is they eventually get there. Wow, that is amazing. I am so excited. I printed 30 of those papers and we came short. That's cool. That is cool. They printed more. Myron worked some, what? It's bouncing off of Kenny's head, apparently. There you go. Thank you, sir. All right, so finally in 516, Nebuchadnezzar, in a couple of stages, but eventually all of Israel has been captured. They've been hauled off to Babylon. to work for the Babylonians and do stuff. And this is all under Nebuchadnezzar. He destroys the temple, makes a big mess of it. Well, in 538, the Persians are now conquering the Syrian Empire. So you had Assyria, which was taken over by Syria. Assyria got beat by Syria. Now Persia is defeating the Medes and the Syrians at the same time. Anyhow, interesting world political things going on at this time. But the short version is Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire, comes into Babylon, takes over the city, and the whole history records that the people of Babylon were just really glad Cyrus the Great came along because they really didn't like, I just said his name a few minutes ago. Should have been Darius 1, Darius 2. Anyhow, whoever was ruling Babylon at that point, nobody actually liked him. Seriously, I looked at that a few minutes ago and I can't remember it. Anyhow, they didn't like him. Cyrus the Great comes in, says, nope, we're going to set this up as a Persian Empire now. But part of his plan, because Cyrus the Great was an interesting guy, all right? Cyrus the Great of the Persian Empire wanted all of these other people's gods to think highly of Cyrus the Great. He wanted to make all of these other gods happy. Cyrus the Great was not a Christian. Christians didn't happen until the New Testament. Anyhow, he was not a believer specifically in Jehovah. He was not a monotheist. He was a polytheist, but he wanted all of these other gods to like him. And he says, hey, Nebuchadnezzar took your temple, destroyed it, and made a mess. Why don't I give you back the stuff that Nebuchadnezzar took from you and send you back to reset up your temple for your God, and then your God will think highly of me. And Israel is not the only kingdom that Cyrus the Great did this for. We'll get into some more of this and some archaeology without getting too deep into the weeds on Sunday mornings when we start Ezra and Nehemiah, okay? So Cyrus the Great sends them back, but it was not a forced, they weren't deported from Babylon. They were just given the option. You can go back to Jerusalem or you can stay wherever you're at in the Persian Empire. That leads us to the events of the book of Esther. Esther and her uncle didn't leave. They didn't go back to rebuild the temple. They didn't go back and work with Ezra and Nehemiah and all of that. They stayed put. And initially you're like, wow, wimp out much? You could have gone back to Jerusalem and really done something for God. And yet God said, I've got a plan for this lady named Esther, and I'm going to make my plan work. So let's pick up. 481, Ahasuerus, historically known as Xerxes the Great. He takes over from Darius the Great, and is at this point, we get to the life of Esther. Ahasuerus is king. He is using the city of Susa as his summer capital. It was a more of a resort area. It was a nicer area. And so he would go and basically hang out for the summer and party for the summer and then continue on his conquests and such later. So let's pick up Esther chapter 1. Now, today, I don't even think we meet Esther. Genesis, Esther, Nehemiah, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Jeremiah. Why? Okay, I did this earlier today, and if you were in Sunday school class with me, you watched me do this. I know where the books of the Bible are, except for today. Apparently, I was looking for Ezra because I was convinced it was here. Nope. Okay. Esther, Ezra, Nehemiah, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Psalms, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Wow. Okay, folks. Just understand it's been a long week, all right? It's been a long week. Fantastic, great week, but long week. All right, Esther, chapter 1. Let's read verses 1 through 4. All right. Now, in the days of Ahasuerus, the Ahasuerus who reigned from India to Ethiopia over 127 provinces. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne in Susa, the citadel, in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a feast for all his officials and servants. The army of Persia and Media and the nobles and the governors of the provinces were before him, while he showed the riches of his royal glory and the splendor and the pomp of his greatness for many days, 180 days. All right. What city, I've already said it multiple times, hopefully you're paying attention. What city do we start our story in? Oh, all right. It's a Diverna, it's a girl, it's beside Sophia. Ruth? Whoa, you're kidding. I got it right. Ruth. Oh, wait, you have to answer the question. What city are we in? What in the world? Susa. All right, you got it right. Fantastic. Folks, it's been a long week, okay? I saw Richard with a cup of coffee. Apparently, I should have asked for a cup of coffee. All right, we're starting out in the city of Susa. Who is king? Who is king? Moses. Sam. Xerxes. Or Ahasuerus. Sorry, Mo, there was a time limit, man. I was about to fall over. All right. Xerxes, also Ahasuerus, as is listed in the passage, or as I said a few minutes ago, historically he was also known as Xerxes the Great. He's king. Now, think about it. Is he a Jewish king? Silas. No, he is not. Sophia, this could be dangerous. There we go. All right. No, he is not. So think about it. Your primary characters, think about this. A book of the Bible and your primary characters are neither Christian nor Jewish. This is a whole book of the Bible where one of your primary characters is just a heathen king. All right? So let's see what God does with that. Now, how long, Ahasuerus is having a feast. How long did his feast last? 180 days. I know your name, but I can't remember it. I'm sorry. Kayla. Very good, Kayla. Thank you. 180 days, which comes out to 6 months. Okay? So basically, he had been conquering. Xerxes the Great had been conquering, and this was kind of historically, they describe this as he kind of regrouped and brought in all of his military and all of his people basically to plan his next campaign. He had a big 6-month hangout. Let's all hang out. Let's party. Let's celebrate the victories we've had. And let's plan the rest of our conquest. All right? So, 6 months of partying. Wow. All right. Let's see what happens now. Verse 5. And when these days were completed, the king gave for all the people present in Susa the citadel, both small and great, a feast lasting for 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white cotton curtains and violet hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rods and marble pillars, and also couches of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and precious stones. Drinks were served in golden vessels, vessels of all different kinds. The royal wine was lavished according to the bounty of the king. Drinking was according to this edict. There is no compulsion, for the king had given orders to all the staff of his palace to do as each man desired. Queen Vashti also gave a feast for the women in the palace that belonged to King Ahasuerus. All right. After the main party feast, how long was the after party? All right. We'll go to the back to Isabella. 7 days. 7 days of intense feast at the end of the main party. Okay? So we're going to, here we go. We're going to ratchet up the party a little bit. Okay. Once a phrase gets stuck in your head, you're stuck with it for a while. So they decide to kick the party up. They're going to pull all of it together. What is noted as interesting, special about this feast? David? Say again. Everybody gets whatever he wants. The king said the royal wine, the food, it's all there. You want it, you got it. King Ahasuerus is trying to make everybody really happy. So, who is giving a separate feast for the ladies? I see Misa back there. Misa. The queen. Very good. All right. Does anybody know the queen's name? Kayla. Vashti. Very good. Very good. You're close, and I still can't get the candy there right. All right. So you've got Queen Vashti, who is throwing a separate party for the ladies. So you have the men partying over here. You have the ladies doing their own party. The queen was fulfilling a queenly function, doing her job, entertaining the ladies. Now, I thought we were studying Esther, right? So we're talking about Vashti. Well, you got to get rid of one if you're going to have the other, right? So let's see what happens, all right? Verse 10. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and all these guys who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus. So he gets his guys together, and he says, he commands them to bring Queen Vashti before the king in her royal crown in order to show the peoples and the princes her beauty, for she was lovely to look at. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, delivered by the eunuchs. At this time, the king became enraged. His anger burned within him. What does the king command Vashti to do? Back in the back corner, Elijah. Yes, she's supposed to come in with the crown and look beautiful for all of his friends, okay? Now, I will say for the adults, you may have heard all kinds of people at various times come up with all kinds of scenarios about exactly what was going on here. The Bible says he wanted her to come and be seen by all his friends. There are no details, there's no explanation, okay? Anything beyond that is human conjecture and reading into the scripture, so we don't add to it. The king said, I want my queen to come here. And what does Vashti do? Does Vashti obey? Oh, goodness. Samuel. No, she doesn't. Sorry, Haley. All right. No, she does not. She doesn't do. Now, how does the king feel about this? Isaac? Very angry. All right. Now, considering the way things work back there, what do you expect is going to happen? This is not a candy question because you don't have a definite answer. You have to give me your thoughts on it. What do we think is going to happen, Elijah? Okay, he's going to find another queen, but that's what's going to happen to Esther. What's going to happen to Vashti? What's he going to do? Okay, Elijah's going with cracker in the head. Samuel, death. Sophia, or Haley, sorry. What? Consult experts. Okay, she says he's going to ask his advisors. Luke? Okay, Luke's going with banish. Elijah's going with dead. Okay, so we've got dead, we've got banishment. All right, Noah. Okay, so he's going to give her lots of gold and then kick her out. I'm okay. All right, Noah's got some interesting concepts. So now let's find out. Let's find out who's right. Boom, boom, boom. All right, Esther chapter 1, verse 13. Then the king said to the wise men who knew the times, for this was the king's procedure toward all who were versed in law and judgment. The men next to him being a whole bunch of other Persian names that I'm just not going to try tonight. All these guys, the next to him were there, and who saw the king's face and sat first in the kingdom. According to the law, what is to be done to Queen Vashti, because she has not performed the command of King Ahasuerus delivered by the eunuchs. I'm going all the way to 18. All right, then Memucan said in the presence of the king and the officials, not only against the king has Queen Vashti done wrong, but also against all the officials and all the peoples who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behavior will be made known to all the women, causing them to look at their husbands with contempt. Since they will say, King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, and she did not come. This very day, the noble women of Persia and Media who have heard of the queen's behavior will say the same thing to all the king's officials, and there will be contempt and wrath in plenty. So what does the king do? Haley said he's going to consult his advisors, and sure enough, he did. But, well, we don't know beyond that. I haven't asked a question. No, but she was getting candy for answering the question right. Well, then it became a candy question. Speaker's prerogative. All right. Speaker's prerogative. All right. It became a candy question. I don't know. All right. So the king consults his men, and the king's advisors think this is going to cause the other women in the kingdom to do something. What do they think the other women in the kingdom are going to do? Moses, second chance. Revolt, disobey, disrespect their husbands and the king's people. He says, guys, if the king lets his wife get away with this, the rest of us are toast. They'll never do what we tell them to again. So now all the advisors are nervous. All right? That was all the way down to verse 18. Woo, we're moving quick. You guys might get a short night tonight. All right. You can ask for a refund later. All right. Interesting. I overlapped. Interesting. So we're going to say verse 19 to 22 because we already read 17 and 18. I don't know. Let's pick up in verse 19 of chapter 1. That would help. All right. For the queen's behavior. All right. There I go to 17. Verse 19, if it pleases the king, let a royal order go out from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, so that it may not be repealed, that Vashti is never again to come before King Ahasuerus. And let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. So when the decree made by the king is proclaimed throughout all the kingdom, for it is vast, all women will give honor to their husbands, high and low alike. This advice pleased the king and the princes, and the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent letters to all the royal provinces, to every province in its own script, and to every people in its own language, that every man be master in his own household and speak according to the language of his people. So, what do the advisors think the king should do? That's Sophia. There we go. Kick her out. Make a royal decree, which actually then, yes, Luke, I see the consternation. Yes, Luke got it right too. So first she said consult, then he said banish her. Sorry, Elijah, she's still alive. You don't get the candy for a wrong answer, all right? Well, there's that. Okay, in the text, he does not have her killed. Okay, so now, oh, that's funny. Well, that's interesting. All right, so I asked the question in verse 22. Who is to be given, oh, okay, well, all right, think about it. Who is to be given Vashti's position as far as what we've read so far? Elijah? Somebody better than her. Very good. We don't have a name yet. We just know that they want somebody better than Vashti. All right. So as we think about this, we see interesting things going on. We see God starting to prepare. We don't know yet, unless we've already studied the book, but we don't know yet in this story what God is planning or what God is preparing. But we can see God is working. Queen Vashti had been queen for a couple of years at least. She knew her royal position. She knew the danger she was in. Honestly, it's astounding to me that King Ahasuerus didn't do what Elijah said, because that's honestly what we would expect from that time period. You defy the king, off with your head. We'll be done with this, okay? That's what you would expect. So for a queen to deny her king and say, no, I ain't going to do it, and possibly then influence all the other ladies in the kingdom, this was a very odd thing. And you see it as I think about it. It is so odd that the king has to ask his advisors, guys, what do I do about this? She's never said no before. What do I do now? He didn't know what to do. This is not a normal event. And so again, all of a sudden, what we see as we get through the rest of the book, we'll see it more, but we see here already God is working out the details for something he has planned. God is getting things prepared and getting things ready to do something. The other thing, again, remember, this is all none of this is happening in Jerusalem. This is not Israel. This is another kingdom. We are getting a look into the royal court of the Persian Empire in some of the early stages of the Persian Empire. We get to see some fascinating things. Now, we're going to get to see what you would call ripple effects. You know, you throw a rock into a pond and the ripples just keep going. The ripples from this event, from when Vashti said, no, I won't do it, that was the first domino that set an entire long series of events that in the end works to preserve Israel. All tied back to a queen, a Persian queen, not a Christian, not a believer. She just says no when nobody really expects her to say no. God is in control. We have a memory verse to wrap things up. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. God has a plan. Folks, we have, I'm going to shoot over the kids' heads for just a second here. Adults, we have a government that is a mess. We'll just put it that way, okay? Short version is it's a mess. But what Proverbs tells us, what the book of Esther tells us, it doesn't matter because God is still in control. The book of Esther is going to focus on a completely heathen government with no basis in the Bible and Scripture. None of the people we're going to look at, except for Esther and Mordecai, have any interest in obeying God. But God is in control. Proverbs says, many are the plans in the mind of a man. Men can come up with all kinds of ideas, but the purpose of the Lord, that will stand. An important thing to remember, whether you're taking the summer and going and having some fun, whether you're working all summer, whether you're an adult and working all summer is kind of the same as working all fall and all winter and all spring and all, as you get to the adult period, well, summer break is, it isn't. Okay, you're just working. But regardless of what it is, God is in control. He has not lost control. He is not sitting back wondering what in the world to do with America. God knows exactly what to do. So let's keep that in mind as we continue, and we will keep studying the book of Esther. Now, this is the second Sunday night. So we will have no evening service next week because it is Father's Day. So there is no evening service next week, but it's a 5-Sunday month. Therefore, we will still get to do missionary story time the next Sunday. So the next Sunday night, which will be 15 plus 7 is 22. The 22nd, thank you. The 22nd, Sunday night the 22nd, we will do missionary story time. For my folks who take care of the Lord's table service, that means we will do Lord's table service on the 5th Sunday night. Okay? So we'll take Sunday night, June 15th off, and we will just kind of bump everything by a week. Okay? So, any questions about tonight's lesson? Elijah? He thinks Vashti was a redhead. Buddy, she was Persian. Pretty sure she had dark hair. Probably black hair. Sam? Ooh, Sam has an interesting question here. All right. Nick is ducking. No, actually, all right. Sam asked a legit question. Was Vashti wrong for disobeying her husband? There's a couple of different ways to approach this. Mark, what's your thought there?
Well, since I don't know if God came to her in a vision or not to go to, otherwise than just going against.
Yep. I don't know if everybody could hear. Mark's approach, and I think he's right, is unless God gave her a directive, you shall not, she needed to obey her husband. Red shirt in the back corner.
Well, that's true. I was doing a little research because I found another path down.
Mm-hmm.
And because she was not Jewish, not God,
Right.
putting her under that. And the other thing is, of the customs and of the times, and the king was in the wrong, called her his place.
Okay. Yes. So we've got Mark with what we would think of as a traditional Christian approach. God says she needs to submit to her husband. But Richard brings in, she's not a Christian. Culturally of that time, you had the men's party and the women's party. There was no cultural appropriateness or correctness for the king to summon his queen to the men's party. So yes, Richard is right. Sociopolitically, Ahasuerus had enjoyed too much of the king's wine and did what he shouldn't have done. Okay? Interesting reminder, alcohol gets you in trouble.
Say, as a woman who wants to go there, whether she was clothed or not,
Yep.
gawked at by 127 guys.
Yep. It's drunk guys. Yes.
Some of them drunk.
Yes.
I mean, what woman in her right mind is going to want to do that? She's been drinking too much wine too.
Well, that's possible too. Now, yes. Now, you are borrowing off of some theories that have been presented about it, but we don't have biblical proof from that, so we have to be careful. Yes. Yes. She was summoned to come, and no, she would have had no desire. But now, I will say, and this is a rather unpopular opinion, which is probably why Nick was hiding when this questioning started. As a Christian, and as a Christian wife, even when the husband asks her to do something not great, unless there is a direct sin involved, she is still under the authority of her husband and she needs to obey. Now, that can look awful. It really can. And if there is sin involved, she has the right to say, I will not sin before God. But if it's just a uncomfortable, nasty situation, she is still stuck, and Peter and some others make some specific statements about that. So, I understand what you're saying. It would have been a horrible thing, but unless there was sin involved, which the passage does not say there was, other than culturally speaking and geopolitically speaking, Ahasuerus was wrong. If we move this into a Christian perspective, she was kind of stuck.
How can you not have a woman being gawked at by several men because she's beautiful, not putting all kinds of thoughts in their head, not sinful?
Okay. First of all, again, we're reading into the text. It says he called her to present before his men as his beautiful wife. Okay? I refer to my wife as beautiful. I will even point out my wife is beautiful. That doesn't mean I'm encouraging inappropriate thoughts. Okay? So, we have to be true and specific to the text. We cannot add what the text does not add. Mark?
Definitely want to make sure we stay in line with understanding God in control of all of this.
Yep.
There was a plan, and it's going to have to be where Vashti moved
Yes.
for Esther to take this.
God is going to use this. Yep. God knew exactly what was going on. He knew what was going to happen. Now, here's a tricky one. And I Sam, you opened me up a can of worms, and I'm pulling out the worms and playing with them, all right? I'll play with the worms, okay? Now, you have the question, God's sovereignty, man's free will. If Vashti had said, oh, okay, fine. The king said I have to do this. I'll go do this. Could God have come up with another way to get Esther in place? Absolutely. God could have struck Vashti down. God, any number of things could have happened, but he takes her refusal and he weaves that in with his perfect plan, and he says, all right, this is how we're going to get this done. All right? Good question. Do we have a question? Did you have what? Mike, did you have a question? Mm-hmm. To not ask this. Yes. And that. Yes. Mike. Yep. Very good. Very good. Mike brings up the understanding, because I know not everybody can hear what Mike said, especially with the air conditioner running. Mike brings up the idea that in a truly Christian setting, in a correct marriage of a saved man and a saved woman, a saved man should never be asking his wife to do something that is going to be uncomfortable or inappropriate or difficult for her. He should be loving her enough to protect her and take care of her, which then allows her to obey him even easier. David. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, bud. What was the answer to Sam's question? It depends. Yes, there we go. It depends. And hey, I answered that. I took a long time to answer it, but I answered it. I don't have a pocket to put my candy in. All right. Fantastic. All right, Luke. Okay. Okay. VeggieTales takes some liberties. All right. Some. A lot. All right. All right. Goodness gracious. Okay. Whew. Do not get your theology from VeggieTales. All right? Okay. All right. I think we should probably have somebody close in prayer. We should wrap up if we have degenerated to VeggieTales. All right. Whew. Okay. Mr. Myron, would you close us in prayer tonight, sir?